Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Sunday, November the 23rd. A good day for the Cowboys. That was quite a game that we saw this afternoon. And as we like to do when we talk about Mexico and other political matters, let's say hello to our friend Allan Wall. How are you, Allan?
Well, fine, Silvio. It's great to be on your show again.
Thank you so much. It's always great to have you to get into a couple of topics. We're big Cowboys fans in our family, and we saw that game that didn't start out well, but ended up great. Did you follow it all?
No, I totally missed it.
Yeah. Well, it was 21-0. The Cowboys were losing 21-0, and they ended up winning 24-21.
Oh yeah,
So
that's great.
it was a great game, and uh, we just had a lot of fun. I mean, I didn't think they were going to win. When you're down 21-0, you normally
Right,
lose.
right.
But it was a great game. So this time of the year, Sunday afternoons, for some of us, mean watching the Cowboys. I don't watch all the other games, but I do follow the Cowboys. Well, let's get into a couple of interesting topics, Alan. Mexico is one that I find very interesting because there seems to be a lot of instability in Mexico right now, and maybe instability is too strong, but there's a lot of talk. It seems like the assassination of this mayor Carlos Manso, I think that's his name, Manso.
Right.
The assassination of Carlos Manso has like lit a fire in Mexico, and the fire is that people are just fed up with this shooting and killing, and now it seems like if you're a mayor, you almost have a 50% chance of getting killed. Especially if you don't follow or toe the line. Journalists, of course, have been killed before. So, have you noticed that in the information that you follow or you report on your blog? Have you noticed that many Mexicans are really fed up with the insecurity?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a big problem. Really, it's the biggest problem in the country, and it ought to be addressed head on, and it ought to be really. It should have been a bigger issue in the election, But well, it's too late for that. But really, I think the opposition parties really need to get together and make this a major issue. But unfortunately, at this point, it seems to me that the Mexican opposition parties, the PAN party especially, they've just lost their momentum, and they don't have effective leadership. They don't have a articulate, platform for the people. And like
Right.
these protests that came out, well, President Scheinbaum was saying, accusing them of being, you know, inspired by political parties. But I thought, well, what's wrong with that? Is it aren't political parties supposed to be, involved in things like this? But it seems to me that the opposition could really make a big winning issue out of this, for the next election. But they just seem to not have much momentum on it.
Well, they're so scattered, they're divided. Uh, that there is no real well, there is only opposition in the sense that there are parties,
Yes.
but they're not effective. They're not effective. That's the problem. Uh, there isn't really, like you say, an opposition. I guess the PAN, the PRI is still around, but some people have
Yep.
talked about forming some kind of a group that where all the opposition comes together. The best hope that I see for an opposition, frankly, is one individual. And one individual that I've seen a lot of in the internet is this guy named Salinas, who is the head of not the famous Salinas company, but I believe he owns one of the TV stations or the networks.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
he's apparently very wealthy,
Yeah.
and he could finance his campaign. And he's sort of borrowing a page out of the Trump playbook,
Right.
and he is this big businessman who is opposing the administration directly without necessarily being from a party. And
Yes.
I think he may be the person that people rally around. He is constantly talking about the insecurity, the lack of the lack of an effort to combat or to fight the insecurity. I mean, whether I remember back years ago when President Calderon sent the army. You could argue that what he did was not enough or maybe the wrong approach, but at least he tried something.
Right.
At least you had some. I mean, I think if you were to put troops in some of these smaller towns, that would have to help. People would cheer that. That would have to help people get over their fears, Alan.
Well, speaking of Salinas, he was probably the main voice opposing, the recent judicial elections,
Right.
and he was against that. He came out very strongly against that, and of course, he has the visibility, he has the money, he has a platform. He actually, could have an influence
Well,
on
he
these
could
other
be.
issues.
Yeah, but he's always speaking. I mean,
Right.
I see him on the internet quite a bit, speaking against the government, and he's focusing a lot on the insecurity. He keeps talking about the economy. He's a big critic of the judicial reform.
Right.
Um, well, they call it reform, but that, by the way, speaking of that judicial reform, that could actually be a problem when they negotiate the free trade agreement. That's what I've heard, that it could be a real problem because some foreign companies are concerned about just how neutral these courts are, Alan.
Well, the thing about that judicial reform, a lot of people say it was just a way for the Morena party and its allies just to, you know, get control of the judiciary because they framed it as a democratic, advance. It is Mexico's now the only country where the judges are all being elected, and yet they also used it to, they made lists of the people that they supported, and they promoted them. And actually, all the Supreme Court they're pro Morena people,
Right.
and so that was a fear that a lot of people had, like Salinas and others. So we'll see how all those things develop as we go along.
Now, Salinas himself has had problems. For example, he was accused of not paying taxes,
Right.
and he said, "Well, tell me how much I have to pay, and I'll pay." And he was blaming it on the fact that he couldn't get a fair trial,
Yes.
which may be true. I don't know for sure, but it does seem to me that there's a lot of things, a lot of things going on that are challenging the legitimacy of President Scheinbaum, and her connection with Lopez Obrador has apparently become an issue as well. So there's just a lot of things going on that you normally don't see. These marches, well, they've had marches before, but I don't. When I lived in Mexico, I remember marches because my office was right on Reforma in Mexico City, which is right
Oh,
across
yes.
from the U.S. Embassy. My
Right.
office was literally right across from the U.S. Embassy. I could literally look at the two Marines who were
Oh,
there.
really? You
Yeah,
were
I
right
mean
across the yeah.
from the window that I had, I could look. There's Reforma and there's the embassy right there, and there's those two Marines at the door. I mean, maybe I don't know how far it was, maybe 300 feet or whatever it was, but I saw it every day. And just about every day or every week, there was a march about this or this or this or that that had nothing to do with the U.S., but they would always go by the U.S. Embassy and criticize President Reagan on Central America or President Bush on Iraq
Yeah.
or the other President Bush on this or this or that. So it seems like they were always marches. They would always go by the U.S. Embassy because they knew they get visibility if they go by the U.S. Embassy,
Yes,
right?
of course.
So but they were never saying that the marches were never, they were more opposed to like price increases or inflation or whatever. But I don't remember any march like this one where they had to, put a fence around El Zócalo, and people were literally writing on the fence, this is a narco state. That I don't ever remember seeing. I mean, to challenge the president in that fashion, Alan, I never remember seeing that. And I saw a lot of marches, and there were marches in
Well,
other cities as well.
right, there were. Well, we'll see how it just seems to me that they need something more concrete as far as organizational, like with the parties. These parties need to. It's funny that Scheinbaum criticized. She said the parties were support. Well, what's wrong with that? As long as it's peaceful,
Right.
with the parties involved in protesting. But they just really need much better leadership. They need articulate spokesmen. Maybe Salinas could link up with the pawn or something. You'd think that he might do that. There may be some obstacles for him because of his TV network. He may need to de-link from the network in order to really get more active.
Right. But the one thing that he's got going for him is he's got name recognition.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
And
very much.
And he's not afraid. That's right. And so that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's exactly like Trump.
No, not
but
exactly.
Trump was a businessman too when he got into it.
Very
and
well
more
known.
People saw more people. I mean, I can tell you, I saw Trump more as a businessman than as a Republican. In fact, I wasn't even sure he was a Republican back in 2016 when he talked about running. Because at one time he had been a Democrat. So I was one of those people who didn't really know what political ideology he had other than I'm a successful businessman. There's nothing wrong with that. Very successful businessman. And I'm going to talk about issues that matter to people, which he did very well. And Salinas maybe could use the same strategy of simply saying, look, I don't necessarily belong to a party, but I want to talk about security and issues that matter to people. And that might work. He may just be the one figure who can get away with it, Alan.
Well, let's hope. I mean, that could happen. I'm interested in seeing, the favorability polls.
Yeah.
Because up until October, she has had very high off, like 70-80% favorability. However, just today, I saw some interesting new polls that have come out in November that are not so good for her. One of them, it's a global poll called the Morning Consult, and AMLO
we've got that one up here,
right?
I think that one is up here as well. Yeah,
and AMLO used to quote that because he got very high marks on it. He would be like, one of the most popular leaders in the world. But the November poll of that same poll, Morning Consult, had her down below 50% favorability. Right. That's a drastic, she went down over 20 points. And there's another poll also in, Financiero, which is not directed specifically to individuals, but to issues. And it has very low ratings for the government on, well, obviously, security issues. And I would like to see, as the months progress, how these, because how polls are, they might just go up briefly and then go back down, but it'll be interesting to see how they continue in the months ahead.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because she's clearly right now under a lot of pressure. And I was telling a Mexican friend that I don't really think that these morning press conferences are a good idea. This idea that every morning you've got a press conference, I think that's almost too much exposure. And maybe the best, López Obrador got away with it because he was López Obrador and he had tremendous political skills. And he was popular, okay? But she doesn't really have great political skills. She's a very smart woman. I don't mean to, and as President Trump would say, she's a wonderful woman. I wonder, you always, oh, she's a very nice lady, a wonderful lady. Trump always does that, which
Yeah.
I think is kind of funny. But I just think these daily press conferences, I've seen a couple of them, and the press is being tough with her. I mean, they're asking her some tough questions that the ones I've seen here lately in the last couple of weeks, she's on the defensive most of the time, Alan.
Yeah, well, it can be a double-edged sword, right? AMLO very effectively used it to set the agenda,
Oh, absolutely.
but if things go south, it can be very, you're out there for a couple of hours, kind of stuck there if things are going bad. So I could see it going either way, with those press conferences.
Yeah, I never really, I mean, I know why Lopez Obrador did it because he, like you say, he controlled the agenda and he was popular and he got generally good media. But she's not getting good media now. And I'll tell you the one remark that she made that I think has a lot of people wondering is when they were asking her about going after the cartels. And
Right.
I want to make sure that I quote her correctly, but I think she said something like, well, we have to be very careful that we don't violate the law going after these people. Almost like, it's almost like Trump blowing up these boats and people saying we got to make sure that everybody in that boat was not carrying something. Well, how do you do that? I mean, that's crazy. And I think in the case of Mexico, I don't know, she came across weak when she made that statement. Has she said something like, yes, absolutely, we're going to go after them and we're going to make sure that every city and every town and every Mexican is protected from this insecurity, and I'm committed to 100%. She really didn't do that. I mean, she came across very weak, I thought, Alan.
Well, it's kind of puzzling. I mean, she said that. On the other hand, she does a lot of other things, like she sends troops to different parts of Mexico when they have violence. And she just needs to have a good policy that is consistent.
She
All
needs
her
to have a tough message. That's what I would say. She just needs to convince people that she is as angry with these criminal elements as she is with other things. It's like, it's a little bit, going back to the war on terror. Every time you saw President Bush talk about terrorists, he would always be talking very hard about them. We're going to kill
right.
them. We're going to get rid of them. And I think if she adopted that language, I think she'd be more persuasive. But I know that a lot of Mexicans that I've spoken to couldn't believe, they said that, how in the world are you going to protect the rights of people who are killing us?
Right.
So it is, but I just have never seen this kind of situation in Mexico before. It just seems to me that people are very angry with the insecurity more than any other time. I mean, this insecurity didn't start yesterday. It's been building up for a while, but it seems that right now, Alan, more people are talking about it and marching about it. And again, I've never seen people calling a president or a particular party, saying that they're in, they're working with cartels. I mean, that is something you never heard before, Alan.
Well, yeah. See how this goes. She does need to be more. Yeah, she needs to not have this mixed messaging, like you
Right.
said. You
Right.
got to make it very clear that whatever you call it, whether you call it a war on drugs or you call it something else, you have to make sure that you will not tolerate, lawlessness.
Well, that's it.
Because,
And you're right.
yeah. So, I mean, these cartels, they're involved in other things too. Like you have all this extortion.
Right.
They're involved in mining. They're involved in agriculture. it's not just the drugs anymore. They've just become a law unto themselves,
Right.
especially the the biggest cartels.
Right. Well, you heard about this fellow who was killed, who was the you know the head of the avocado growers, I think,
Yes.
and he was basically killed, and immediately they started talking about the extortion and how these farmers are feeling the pressure of these
Yes.
elements. And I just saw a video earlier today of I guess truckers who are going to be blocking highways this week because they're
Right.
angry at the extortion too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And you know what? Remember, one of the arguments for drug legalization is that, well, if you take the money out of it, because, well, the fact that it's illegal drives up the price. If you take the money out of it, then they won't be dangerous. But the fact is, these guys, it doesn't matter what they're involved in. It's not just the drugs anymore. They're in so many other criminal enterprises, because once you allow a criminal group to run rampant, they're going to do whatever they want. So
yeah.
you just can't tolerate that.
They're also very diversified.
Oh, yes, yes.
Not diversified. They're diversified, but I mean they're very sophisticated,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and they've got
Yeah.
all kinds of. I mean, they're into. I mean, they're running their corporations as efficiently as any other corporation would be in Mexico.
Right.
I mean,
Maybe
they've
more.
got, yeah, maybe more. They've got MBAs doing their finance. I mean,
Yeah.
these people
Yeah.
are really sophisticated. They know how to, play by the rules. Well,
And
let
all
me
this,
move on.
the
Go
money
ahead. I'm sorry.
laundering, and
Yes, yes.
they're international too. They're all over the world.
Another thing too. One last thought here about Mexico before move on to another topic. This senator. I'm not sure what state she's from, but she's the one who's been on TV quite a bit up here. Senator Tellez, this
Yeah,
lady,
Lily
Lily
Tejas.
Tellez, is that her name? Yeah, Lily Tellez. Again, she's like, I mean, I don't ever recall a Mexican senator going on American TV directly accusing the president of Mexico, and especially the predecessor, of being tied in with narcos. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it before. I haven't, Alan.
Well, she got a lot of feedback over that. They were not happy of that. The Morena
No,
party.
but she's become, I mean, she's being interviewed on Fox News every other week. she's she's like on Fox News every other week. She's become
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
the face of that movement. And that, again, I've never seen anything like that before. It seemed like before there was this fear of accusing a president that way. I mean, everybody would privately say, there's a lot of corruption, but nobody would come out and directly say it like that, especially to a foreign in another country. I mean, that's just something. At least I don't remember. Seeing. Well, let me move on to another topic. I want to quickly touch on this video that is going around. You had two senators, Democrat senators, and four members of Congress who made a video, and the video was directed to the soldiers, the armed forces. And the message of the video was sort of like saying, hey, guys, you don't have to accept illegal orders, that if you're given an illegal order, you don't have to follow it. Now, I think everybody in the Army knows that. I mean, I don't know that, they need a continuing education on that. I mean, you served and you knew that. You knew that you didn't have to do something that you felt was illegal. And there's also a court system to take up issues like that. So why these members of Congress would at the moment go out and deliver what I think it's a horrific message to the soldiers. They don't need to hear that. They know what to do if there's an illegal order. It just left a lot of people very angry. I'm angry that they made that video. You served in the military. I didn't, but our son did. How do you react to a video like that being made by politicians, sort of reminding you as a member of the Army that you don't have to obey what the president is saying? How do you
Well,
react to that?
Well, I mean, like you say, if it were truly a unconstitutional order, we would agree with that. And in fact, when a soldier joins the army, he takes an oath not to the president but to the Constitution.
That's right.
So I believe we agree on that principle. The question is, why are they saying that? Why are they making a video? Why are they directing it towards serving military officers? Of course, they're serving their own agenda to do that. And it's very out of order for them to be doing that.
Right.
And
yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, why are they doing that? Of course, to sabotage, the administration. Of course, that's why.
Well, that's why, and many of them have been on TV. Not all of them, but many of them have been on TV. Because Trump came out and said, they should be called treason and traitors, and I thought, honestly, Trump overreacted in his reaction, but we know how he is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nothing new.
Right.
But here's the thing that I find most disturbing, as well as the video. These people go on TV to explain why they did it. And I've seen several videos. Some of them were on Sunday on the Sunday shows. And they ask him, well, can you give us an example of an illegal order? Well, no, I don't have an example of one.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with one?
Right.
No, not to my knowledge. No. So what the heck are you talking about?
Exactly. Yes.
What is this about? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I think what a lot of them are I think you're right on target when you say it serves their purposes. I have a post coming out Monday morning at American Thinker where I argue that this is like making this video was like protection from a primary, in the sense that how these primaries are going after centrist Democrats. So if you represent if you're a Democrat and you represent a blue district where you're going to be reelected, your biggest fear is not the Republican you're going to run against, because he's not going to beat you. The biggest fear is that you get a woke primary.
Yeah.
And we saw this here in Texas, Allan, with Henry Cuellar. Henry Cuellar is a pretty decent Democrat down in Laredo, Texas. He had been a very strong critic of President Biden on the border. He had also, he's one of the few pro-life, or maybe not, one of the few that will admit that he's pro-life. And he criticized the Biden administration on that point too. So they threw a woke primary at him in 2024, Allan. And they came within 1,000 votes of defeating a well-known Democrat in Laredo, Texas, wow. Allan. So, I mean, look what that's how Alejandra Ocasio-Cortez became a congresswoman.
Oh, right.
Doing this. And there's other examples. So a lot of these Democrats, they're more worried about the woke primary. And I think they make this video. This is my theory. They make this video because that way they can sort of check their credentials and say, hey, look, I hate Trump as much as you do. So stay away from me. That's kind of my theory for Allan. I don't know any other reason for doing it.
Oh, excuse me?
No, I say I don't see any other reason for doing this. There's no illegal order. President Trump is a legitimate president. The orders that he's giving are military orders that are completely legitimate. I don't know. I'm not familiar. I mean, I guess they're angry about these boats being blown up in the ocean. But okay, if you're angry about that, what do they suggest we do?
Well, it's very chilling. Like you said, they couldn't even give an example of an illegal order. If it were truly a problem, they ought to be able to have an example.
Well, I was on, I was talking to a Democrat the other day. I was on Univision, and there was a Democrat there who said, well, maybe these members of Congress know something that Trump is planning to do. Of course, what he was suggesting is that Trump is going to do a coup d'etat and cancel the election and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, you're giving them too much credit, because if they actually knew that something bad was going to happen like that, that would have already shown up on the front page of the New York Times.
Oh yes, definitely. One thing though, I see these liberal Democrats whenever they deal with military matters. The funniest thing I thought was you remember when Trump had the big march in Washington? They acted
Right.
like it was some kind of fascist march or something.
Right.
Although they've done that before,
Right.
but I heard one Democrat saying, "And think about this: they're forcing military personnel to take part." I thought, do you know anything about the military? Do you just do what you want in the military?
Right.
Everything you do in the military, you're forced to do. Why is this different?
Right.
What?
That's why they used to call it a draft.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't, when you were drafted, I mean, we have
You
a
didn't have a
volunteer army.
choice.
Yeah, I mean, we have a volunteer army now, of course, but the guys who served in Vietnam and Korea, and I guess World War II also, they got a draft notice.
Yep.
And that draft notice, if you didn't obey it, some of them, I guess, ended up in Canada or whatever, wherever they went. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. But I really, to me, I think it's offensive to use the military in that fashion now. I mean, I think it's offensive. We should respect. I mean, we should respect the military and keep it out of politics.
Well, this Trump derangement syndrome, it just brings us. It just goes on and on. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem to have a limit to it.
No,
there doesn't seem to be a point where you say, you know what, I think we've gone too far with this.
Right.
It's just like they just keep going deeper and doubling down and doubling down. Well, let's close with maybe something fun. With Thanksgiving coming up, you and I had the opportunity to live in Mexico, so Mexico City for me. And I remember, a couple of Thanksgiving, actually 5 of them that I was down there. And I always, obviously, they don't celebrate Thanksgiving in the official way that we do, but it has become more and more a part of their life. And I was working with an American company, so we had other Americans there. And on that day, we were usually given the opportunity to go home and celebrate Thanksgiving, and then Friday we also had the option of a day off or whatever. So we got to celebrate it, and we got to go to usually expats. We used to call expats. We used to go to their home and get together and have turkey. Not much different than up here. But what I found was fascinating in Mexico about Thanksgiving was the football game. That all the Mexicans would really get into the Cowboys playing that day. And that was like in the office, they had the TV on, and that was a big deal. And because the Cowboys were so popular in Mexico, Alan.
Right. Well, there's a lot of NFL fans in Mexico. But regarding Thanksgiving, you know what? In our family, we did the expat thing too. And of course, my wife's Mexican, but she cooks she has a secret Mexican turkey recipe.
Right.
But we invited.
I think all Mexican wives do, because
I guess so.
I compliment mine for something similar.
Right.
I don't know what sauce they put in it, but it is
right.
Whatever it is, it adds a lot of value to it.
Exactly. So one year we invited some people from our church to come and eat with us, and I explained the history of Thanksgiving and everything, and they had a great time. And so next year, I was asked, "Hey, when are we having Thanksgiving?" They decided it was going to be a annual tradition for them too.
Yeah, I mean, I find that more and more. They don't get the day off in the sense that we do,
right?
And it's not the holiday. But I just remember some things that really stood out. Like, for example, the Macy's parade. They got into that.
Oh yes.
You had women in the office watching the Macy's parade.
Yeah.
And you had housewives at home watching the Macy's parade. They thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And then, of course, the football games were the other thing that they would get excited about. And so I actually, even though it's not an official holiday down there, and it was accepted, particularly for people who worked, like in my case, the Mexicans were in our company, in our American company. Yeah, I mean they got into it too, and we brought them turkey, and they thought it was a cool thing. So I mean, they enjoyed it as much. But the
Yes,
one
yes.
thing I'll say in closing, Alan, the one thing that I that I find fascinating, now this is Texas now, not Mexico, is that the Mexicans in South Texas, a significant population down there, as you know, they eat tamales for
Oh,
Thanksgiving,
and
or at
that's the
least they,
main course.
yeah, they eat. Let's say they
Yeah.
eat a lot of tamales. They may do
Right.
turkey traditional, and
Okay.
they have a festival of tamales. It's not just Thanksgiving, but also for Christmas. So tamales are very popular in South Texas in these holidays, whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas. Now that I didn't see in Mexico City. There, I didn't
Oh,
see that interest in tamales down there that I seen here in South Texas. I don't know if you saw that in your experience in Mexico.
well, well, at Christmas, yes, but at Christmas it was a popular food where I lived.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, you mentioned something that you were explaining the holiday.
Yes.
That is so much fun when you explain, because I've had to explain the holiday to not just the Mexicans that I worked with down there, but I had to explain it to my parents when we first
Oh,
came to the United States because they had no clue.
right.
And I really didn't either, but I picked it up in school. I picked
Yes.
up enough in school because one day I was walking around, like the week before Thanksgiving or something. I'm in sixth grade or fifth or sixth grade, and I'm walking around this little primary school, and I see all these posters of turkeys, and I'm like, saying, why are
What?
these people? Yeah, I'm saying to myself, why are these people putting up posters of turkeys? And we never ate turkey in Cuba. That's the other thing.
Oh,
We didn't, turkey was not a dish. I mean, we had turkeys, but they were wild animals that nobody really.
yes.
So I had this wonderful primary school teacher, and I said to her, "Why the turkey posters? What's the big deal?" So she kind of explained the Thanksgiving story and how they ate turkey at the first Thanksgiving. And I said, wow. So I went home and I explained to my parents, that's what this is all about. They give thanks, and they eat turkey, and that's kind of cool. So my parents they heard the story and they were kind of like thrilled with it. They say, oh, you mean they give thanks for one day a year? And I said, yeah, they do. They give thanks. And for us, that first year in the United States, giving thanks was actually something we wanted to do, in the
Yes.
sense that we had left a communist regime. So it was cool for us that way as well. So when you mentioned that you explained it to some people, I
Yes.
had my own explaining to do as well. But in my case, it was actually my parents uh,
Yes.
who who did it. But the one cool thing about my mother is my late mother is that I think the second year that we had Thanksgiving, she did the turkey, but then she put some Cuban dishes on the table,
Oh,
and I had several kids from the neighborhood come over, and they had some of these Cuban dishes. And they were all excited about that. They said, "Wow, this is great food. Is that what you guys do in Cuba?" And I said, "Well, yeah. Well, this is what we eat. This is Cuban food." And they all thought that was cool. So they would always hang around my house on Thanksgiving Day, for Alan. They always thought it
oh.
was really cool that my mom made these dishes for Thanksgiving. So that made my mom a really popular person on Thanksgiving. so, so that's the other Thanksgiving memory that I have. But it's a great holiday. It's really the most original American holiday of all. That's what I always tell people. It's the there's no other country that has it. I think Canada has it, but a different day. But to me, it's the most amazing holiday of all, Alan. I mean, the most amazing, most American, I should say, holiday of all. Which is why you need to explain it to people. because they've got Christmas just like we have Christmas. They have Father's Day, Mother's Day, and they have those. But Thanksgiving is purely American, which is really cool, I think.
Well, this summer we took a family trip. I for the first time in my life I was able to visit Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Oh,
It was great. I saw where the Pilgrims were and all those historical places. I'd never gone there before. It was really a great place to visit.
yeah, I've never been to Plymouth. I hear the same thing, that it's a lot of fun to visit. I just admire those people
Oh
to
yes,
travel in that
yes.
boat and to
Oh
survive
yes,
that first winter. I mean, I just admire their tenacity, their faith. So you just have to admire them just on that basis alone,
exactly.
that they were able to do that. Well, Allan, happy Thanksgiving to you and to your family. I hope you have all the turkey you need, and that you, like a lot of people, you have a lot of turkey sandwiches on Friday after, and
Right,
maybe the next week as well.
right.
And I want to thank you as always so much for joining us, and happy Thanksgiving to you and to your family. And let's do it again. Let's do it again
Okay.
soon.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right. Thank you so much. Our good friend Allan Wall. We've been talking to Allan for, my gosh, I think go back to 2007. We talk about Mexico. Always enjoyed talking about Mexico. It's I'm in touch with it. Not as much as I used to be, but I'm still in touch with it. I'm always interested in what's going on down there. And there's a lot going on now, which is why I wanted to chat with Allan. Have a great day, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.